What's up, YouTube? Robbie Vapes back again, and today we're talking drip tips. That is right, YouTube. You heard me correctly. We are talking about drip tips today. Now I know what you're all thinking. Robbie, you look damn good in dolphin colors. And I know. Now if you weren't thinking that, then you're probably thinking, who gives a shit? They're drip tips. They all have the same function, they all have the same purpose, and for the most part, they all pretty much perform the exact same way. Yes, that is so true. But in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you may think differently, but in my opinion, a nice drip tip really does complement the entire device or your entire setup, really. And today I have two very nice drip tips that I purchased out of pocket, out of my own money. These were not sent to me, these are not meant for review. These are just some drip tips that I picked up at the store. They are a little bit pricey, but for me, I felt they were worth the money. I mean, we go out spending all this money on devices, on mods, on tanks, on RDAs, etc. And yet a lot of us overlook the drip tips. This video is hopefully going to help kind of change that perspective a little bit and maybe just show you that the right drip tip really can complement the setup very nicely. Now, I mentioned before that I did pay quite a bit for these drip tips. These are not the most expensive drip tips out there, but they're also not your bargain $5 drip tips, okay? The first one is called the Third Eye, or I believe it's made by Third Eye. It's just a really cool design. I don't think there's actually a name to the drip tip, so it's made by Third Eye. So keep that in mind. The second one is made by Odis, and again, no name for the actual drip tip. It's not like it's a Segeli 150 watt or an IPv3 Li, I guess. And I guess I'm only bringing those up because I know I'm supposed to do a review on those and a head-to-head, but I've decided to postpone it a little bit. And the reason for that is because one of the suggestions I had in my preview video, if you will, was to talk about the warranty process of these two devices. As it stands right now, I have sent in an email to both these companies, and I'm very curious to find out which ones get back to me. Now, to make it unbiased, I actually used a different email than my Robbie Vapes email. I used my personal one, and that way it would remain kind of anonymous, I guess, if you will. But anyway, so that's what's holding up that review, and again, that's why I focused on that. But my point was, getting back on track, was that most drip tips are not named. You have the manufacturer who makes the drip tips and the different variations or colors of that drip tip. They're not really named for anything, or you're not going to name every individual drip tip you make. And I guess it kind of makes sense. It's more about the colors and how it looks and things like that than it is about the actual name of the drip tip. So yes, I have the Odis here and the Third Eye. Both these drip tips I'm in love with, and that's why I'm sharing them in this video. What we're going to do now is we're going to get down and dirty with these two drip tips. We're going to check them out, check out all the cool things about them, how they look, how they perform, things like that. And then we'll take it back up top, have a couple vapes, and end the video there. So this should be a short video, and hopefully don't go on too long. But without further ado, let's get down and dirty with these two drip tips and check them out. Alright, YouTube, we are down and dirty with the drip tips. First up, we have the Third Eye drip tip. And as you can see here, what drew me to it was just the overall coloration of it. Kind of like just has that like almost Spider-Man feel to it. Yes, I'm a bit of a comic book nerd. I don't care. I still think it looks really cool. One thing I do want to point out is that the connection point on the 510, and again, these are both drip tips are 510 in size. But one thing I want to point out is that this one is super skinny around the connection point. And what that does is it actually increases the bore size just a little bit without actually increasing the overall measurement of it. So you still have a 510 drip tip, but it has a wider bore because the outside is just so skinny where it connects to. That's one thing I really like about it. You can also get replacement inserts, I guess, if you will, or connection points for this particular drip tip, so you can replace it if it ever breaks. I've had it for about a week and a half now, 2 weeks, and haven't had any issues with it, hadn't had any cracking. It seems very durable. It is a bit of a tighter fit in some of my other devices, like my TFE4 or even the Crown Tank, but one of the things I like about it is just how well it looks on top of those devices. Alright, and to show off this particular drip tip, what we have here is the Crown Tank. We're just going to put it on top of here and put it inside. As you can see, it is a little tight to get on, but once it goes on, it is on no problem. Now, like I said before, drip tips really do add just that splash of color to the devices that you're using. or to the tanks you're using, and it really does highlight the whole setup for you. That's one thing I believe, at least. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Let me know in the comments below if you think that a nice drip tip can really add to your overall setup. But yes, again, these are a little bit expensive. They are $30 for this drip tip, and this particular drip tip did not come with any packaging or anything. It just came off the shelf and basically was handed to me, and I threw it right on a device, and that was the end of it. So it's a nice little drip tip, but again, yes, it's expensive, so just be aware of that. And again, this is the third eye drip tip. Now, we've seen the third eye, and the reason why I mentioned packaging on this is because the next drip tip I want to show you has some of the nicest packaging of any vaping equipment I've ever bought. And it's simple, but it's very, very elegant. And this over here, we'll put this off in the background here. Hopefully it doesn't fall over, but just put it into the background. There we go. Now let's focus on this one. This is the Odis. So you can see here, let's see if I can get it to focus a little bit better. So it's the Odis Collection, and it comes in like a little bottle. It has a little bit of cotton at the bottom of it. Very clean, very nice label. And basically you just have a little corkscrew on top, or a little cork on top. Remove it, and to remove the drip tip, all you have to do, tip it over, and it comes right out. Now the packaging is what caught me the most on these, and I knew I had to have one of these. It is another $30 drip tip, so it's expensive, but it looks nice, so you can see here. And these drip tips are actually wood, and then what they did is they put like a clear coat over top of it, and then on the middle, to make sure it doesn't splinter, they actually have they have a metal insert in the middle and on the bottom, which basically helps protect it from splintering or anything like that. So you can see here, really nice design. It's just one of those things where when it sits on top of your device, it's gonna turn heads. It's something small, but it makes your device stand out from anyone else who's using that same device. And I'll show you what I mean with the TFE4 here. So here I have the TFE4. Just going to put it on top here. And again, it kind of highlights that device. Now, as you will see, the issue with this particular drip tip is that it does not sit flush on the TFE4. You have about a 1 millimeter or half millimeter, give or take, basically a gap in between the drip tip and the tank itself. If you're one of those vapors who are an OCD vapor, and yes, I'm kind of one of you guys, this will bother you. And I can understand. It's not something that anyone wants to see on their devices. And this is the TFE4. Let's take it off, put it on the crown tank, and see how it sits on that. But again, just something to be aware of. I will say this, having it stick out, it does not actually create any sort of gap in between here. So you're not going to have air coming in. You're not going to have a whistling sound or anything like that. It is still a secure connection, but it does not sit flush. So just keep that in mind. Now with the crown tank, we'll remove the third eye from here. And we'll put on this drip tip. And as you can see, it sits perfectly flush. So it will sit flush on almost any device. It just so happens that the Smoke TFE4, it does not sit flush on. And I don't know if that's with all drip tips on that, on the TFE4 or just this one, but it is something to notice, and it is something to take note of. That being said, it looks awesome. I mean, it's just one of those things that something so small can make a major difference to your vaping experience. Now, as I mentioned before with the third eye, this one does have a larger metal surface area around the connection point. So it is pretty much a standard size of hole in your drip tip. This one, on the other hand, is much bigger, as you can clearly see. And that's because you're using less area. Or you're basically using less, a skinnier seal, I should say. This one, it's much thicker. But again, I like both these drip tips. I think they're great. Yes, they're $30, but I'm happy I purchased them. And for the price, it's really not that bad. Like I said, just having that skinnier plastic thing on this one is really nice. But overall, out of these two, when it comes to packaging and presentation, this one, the Odis, clearly takes the cake. I mean, the fact that it comes in this little bottle, it's just something simple, but it's so nice to see when a drip tip is packaged nicely and not just scattered in a little baggie or something like that. This one was on a display stand. It was just sitting there. I saw the coloration and had to get it for that reason. This one, on the other hand, really drew me to it just because of the packaging. As soon as I saw the packaging, I was intrigued. I wanted one, and I was going to get one no matter what. So There you go, guys. $60 worth of drip tips right here. I can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah, $60 worth of drip tips, and that is just crazy. So my question to you guys is, what do you think of spending that kind of money on a drip tip? Is $30 for a drip tip unreasonable? Do you feel like having a drip tip like this adds to your overall device, maybe adds to the visual aspect of your device, makes it look a little cooler? Or do you feel like drip tips should just be used for what they're used for, and you're okay with spending, a couple bucks on just a normal everyday drip tip? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to see if I'm the only person who thinks that drip tips are underrated, or if other people think they're overrated and overpriced. So let me know what your thoughts are. I am curious, and I do think it will be a interesting conversation below, just to see what people think about it. So with that being said, let's take it back up top and take a vape off these. All right, YouTube, we are back up top. We're going to take a couple hits off these two drip tips, just show you what it looks like. Again, just to summarize, one of the things that I wasn't a huge fan of with the Odis is the fact that it doesn't sit flush on the TFE4. But again, I can't necessarily fault it for it because it seems to sit flush on every other device I have. It just seems to be the TFE4 that's doing that. And it's not actually causing any sort of leakage or air gaps in there, so no air is getting in through the drip tip. It's not causing a less dense vape or anything like that. I'm definitely getting a full hit off any other drip tip I would have had in here, but for some reason just won't sit flush on here. So again, take a hit. It's a drip tip, guys. Obviously, it's not the cause of that vapor, but it feels good, and it's nice. It's a nice little design, and it's a nice little touch to have it on top of your device, and just to kind of show off your device a little bit more in your setup and make yours different from everyone else's. And with these drip tips, like I said, I don't usually focus on packaging too much, but with this little package right here, this little glass container, I thought it was a great touch to put in something like that. It just feels so much more high-end when it comes in such a nice package. And I know packaging, like I said, it's not something that everybody cares about, but having that presentation when you first purchase something, that's huge. That's something that I love. I love having a proper presentation, and I love feeling like what I purchased was worth it, and it felt high-end. This feels like a $30 drip tip. First of all, you have the wood, you have the metal inserts, you have the beautiful packaging, and again, it feels like a very good drip tip. Next up, we have the third eye. I have it on the crown tank. That's what we're going to use it on today. I'm going to switch out the crown tank over the TFE4, and we'll vape on the third eye drip tip and see how it looks. So we have the crown tank with the third eye drip tip on it, just to show you what it looks like. I'm going to take a hit off this real quick, and we'll talk about it a little bit more after that. One thing I didn't mention in the up close portion of this is that the third eye is great for very hot builds. This little drip tip does not get hot. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of the surface area actually connecting or actually making contact with the connection on the device, or what it is, but I actually use this drip tip on my Twisted Mess RDA at upwards of 200 watts, and I have no issues with it. It doesn't get hot, it doesn't get too warm, it still stays at very good temperature, and it does have a very wide bore to it, which is very nice. The overall look and feel of it, it's a drip tip. Yeah, it's gonna feel the same as every other drip tip, but the look and the design of it is very, very nice, and it's something I personally like about this particular drip tip. And again, it stands out on the device too, which is awesome. If you're paying 30 bucks for a drip tip, it better stand out. You can get these $5 drip tips, and you can get $10 drip tips even, and they're very nice, don't get me wrong, and some of them are great and they stand out as well. But this one just feels great. It hits well, or it's able to hit at high temperatures without getting hot. Yeah, it's a really great drip tip, and honestly, I'm pretty happy I got both of them, to be honest. It's one of those things that I never would have expected, even a couple months ago, to be spending $60 on 2 drip tips. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad I did, and I think you guys, if you're looking for a drip tip or looking for a way to have your device stand out a little bit more, the Odis and the third eye are great options. Just saying. Anyways, guys, that ends the video here. Before we go, I have to say one quick thing. Go Dolphins. Actually, on that note, I should mention that Hank and I actually have a bet going right now, a little wager, if you will. Both of our teams are playing each other tomorrow in Week 1 in the opener of the 2015 NFL season. My Dolphins, his Redskins. I don't know. His Redskins versus my Dolphins. And the loser will have to do something pretty funny in Project Fog tonight. So keep an eye out for that, and make sure to check out Project Fog tonight. If you're not already a subscriber, make sure to subscribe, because we will be doing a 500 subscriber giveaway once we hit 500 subscribers. So again, Project Fog is on tonight at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, if you have no other reason to watch, at least watch to see which one of us has to do something embarrassing. Alright, so again, my Dolphins, Hank's Redskins. We're going to see which team wins tomorrow and which of us has to do something very embarrassing. So with that being said, guys, thanks as always for watching, and until next time, YouTube, happy vaping.